Hello, Kirby.
Hey, thank you so much. So great to see you again.
Good to see you.
You know, it's always a pleasure to be at the Edward Green store here on Jermyn Street, so thanks for hosting us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
And, you know, we look forward to learning a little bit more about Edward Green, and I believe you're going to show us some models, right?
Certainly am, Kirby. So we've been making shoes in Northampton since 1890, so very long history, and we really just try and make shoes as best we can using the finest raw materials, finest calf skins and soles, and then spend a lot of time making them with great care and attention.
Yeah. I mean, Edward Green is, eponymous with, high-end British shoes. I mean, it's one of the most iconic, British shoemakers. So, I mean, you guys are certainly doing stuff of the highest quality. How has that kind of evolved? I mean, since 1890, was it always kind of a commitment to the highest quality level, or is that something that as the field kind of thinned, you guys really came out as just a leader?
I think from the get-go, Edward Green himself was very keen that at a time when mass production was increasing in the Northampton shoe industry, that he wanted to have a workshop which really adhered to kind of slightly different standards. And that was true from the start. But as times moved on, it's something which we've really realised it makes us very special in the marketplace. So I think we've always tried to adhere to the highest standards, but certainly in kind of recent years, so the last 2 decades, 3 decades, it's something we've really returned to as the surviving British shoemakers have found very particular niches. And our niche is making a small number of shoes
to the highest
but to the very highest standards. And so here we've got, as one example, the Dover. And the Dover is perhaps our signature style. And this is actually hand sewn with a boar's bristle needle.
Okay.
So very skilled craftsmen take a boar's bristle and split it, entwine the thread, and hand sew this over the course.
So it's still a Goodyear welted kind of factory finished shoe, but you're still putting handwork that you wouldn't find in a common ready to wear shoe into this product.
Very much so. In fact, with every Edward Green shoe, even though we're using classic shoemaking machinery, it's machinery which really requires a high level of calibration. So there'll be a great variety of models we make. A lot of shoes we make in our factory will be made to orders. You'll have other factories maybe where they'll set up a machine and they'll run off a number of shoes of the same style, dozens. Whereas in our factory, because we make so many to order and short runs, those will constantly be calibrated to make sure that the feather line's beautifully tight, the fit is exactly what you want it to be. So the Dover is very much a signature style of ours, and this leather here is very much a signature Edward Green leather. It's an antique leather, so you probably won't be able to see inside the shoe from here, but the colour of the leather as it arrives from the tannery into our factory will not be the same as the beautifully patinaed finished shoe. It's got real depth to it.
So you guys are actually polishing the shoe. I mean, most shoes, ready-to-wear shoes that leave the factory never touch, the hand of a skilled polisher. And so you're creating this antiquing, totally by hand.
Totally by hand, and hopefully it looks really special today, but also over the course of time, when you polish your own shoes and you perhaps apply different polishes, the shoe becomes richer with time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I often say the best shoes here, actually, the good returns, shoes which have repairs, shoes which have come back, have been loved, have been polished, and like a piece of beautiful wooden furniture, it's something which really
develops
gains character.
Patina. It's that patina as it ages and becomes personal. And so, I mean, are there any characteristics of just the quality of the upper or the tanning process, that again allow an Edward Green to age so gracefully? Because, my father, I mean, he's got Edward Greens that are probably 20 or 30 years old, that he's been taking great care of. So what is it, about the shoe? I mean, the Goodyear welting can be resold, but it's also the integrity behind the shoe itself that lends to that longevity.
Absolutely. One has to be very exacting about the leather one uses. So, we insist on the best grade of skins from small tanneries. You really take great care, with that process. And then we will also, to be quite honest with you, will waste more leather than other shoemakers. And that's partly because with the hand antiquing process we use, you can see the character of the grain. So there'll be elements that, if it was a piece of leather which is kind of corrected in some way, you wouldn't see the flaw. But because we want the character of the skin, to be visible, we have to be very exacting, and more get left on the floor.
Yeah. So it's all open grain, uncorrected leather.
Exactly right.
Which is part of what allows it to absorb the polish and really antique.
Exactly. Very tight, tight grain, and so one can see here a new model, which is really kind of based upon the Dover, the Fulham. We used to make a Fulham actually, but the lines of this have been just neatened and kind of made to work, better for today. But we see the signature split toe again.
So it's a hand-sewn apron, and then invisible kind of stitching here on the split toe.
Exactly.
And again, this is all done by hand.
All done by hand.
Closed.
Exactly right. So we have that available, in a selection of colours.
One of the other things that I've always appreciated about an Edward Green is, of course, it's a beautiful upper. You guys put a lot of time and work into elegant, balanced last designs. But if you look at the heel of the shoe and just the lines of the waist, is just as much work going into that as the rest of the shoe?
Absolutely, Kirby.
Even the sole's finished here, right?
Right. So one of the things we'll do is we'll take great care to pull the upper over the last, and in a very defined way, which means that the machinery has to be very calibrated, as I say, changed according to the particular model mix, so there's more time involved there. But it means we get a very tight feather line, so the leather is pulled in very neatly over that sculptured last, and there's a defined line in here. In terms of the sole, it's less pronounced on the Dover than it would be, on a classic dress shoe. Say we've got, but if you pass me the Newbury at the end, so it's less obvious than it would be on a classic dress shoe, such as our Newbury hole cut here. But a tightly beveled waist. So again, it's more work to pull the waist in, to trim it. The waists themselves are always closed channel, so there's no open stitch. It's folded down. It's probably my favourite machine in the factory. It's a beautiful old brass rubbing wheel that closes that down and just creates a very refined product. Yeah,
absolutely beautiful, kind of elegant shoe. So I think whenever I think of Edward Green, again, I think of those highly traditional, kind of quintessentially English dress shoes.
Absolutely.
But you guys have a very wide range. What are some of the other shoes that you guys have branched kind of into to really diversify against just the black cap toe Oxford and brown suede,
So I think that we've got a good range of boots. We were originally a boot maker, as many Northampton shoemakers were, and so this would have been the classic field boot that we produced, the Galway, and it's got a very kind of iconic line here. And this particular version is what's called a veldschoen. So the upper's pulled out over the top of the welt, and it adds extra weather protection. You can keep it nicely waxed, and it's really good for going out and walking.
Shooting or hiking.
Absolutely. Still very, very popular.
This has a double sole, or no? It's a
double sole. Ridgeway. Yeah, absolutely. And actually, the tongue here is a bellows tongue. So again, it's really kind of fit for purpose. You can see here, it's kind of
absolutely
tied in the top. But the Galway has really diversified. So now this is one of the more modern interpretations we have of the Galway.
Different last design.
Yeah, it's a different last. So our 82 last, slim almond last. It's made in a leather which is steeped in 9 different oils. So it's got a lovely, soft, supple finish to it, and it's a nice casual boot. This is the sort of boot you might wear, some nice denim at the weekend.
Yeah, beautiful.
But also, we have people who, because of the kind of the possibility of 2 different materials here, people will have made to orders with really interesting colours, and they might have dark oak at the bottom and army green suede at the top, and So it will really set people's minds working.
So is the made-to-order, primarily done, out of the Jermyn Street shop here, or is that something that people can also commission online?
If people want to have made-to-orders with us, then we usually have a conversation with them.
Okay.
So whether that's in store or online, but we also have a great number of excellent retailers throughout the world, including in the US.
Yeah.
LaFoe in New York.
Absolutely.
Mr. Sid up in Boston. And the salesmen there are really excellent. They really know their product, and they'll happily, talk people through that journey. So the Galway is one of my absolute favourites. And then as we're coming up to autumn, winter, Kirby, I think in terms of a good ankle boot, a good chucker boot, the Banbury is a great choice. Very flexible. So again, this is beautiful dark oak, which is probably the most popular of our colours.
Oh, really?
Lovely classic brown.
You can smell the quality of the leather. Absolutely love the smell of fresh leather. Beautiful. So this is with a day-night sole. So again, a nice winter boot.
Absolutely.
Walk in it, kind of snow, rain.
Exactly.
Keep it well polished. It's going to remain water resistant.
You've got it. Yep. Exactly. Very flexible.
So what are the different quality ranges? I mean, you've got your casual shoes, and then you've got your standard line, but then you also have a line of shoes really for the connoisseur, kind of showcasing the really highest end of Edward Green's kind of capabilities.
I think for the most part we don't necessarily always think about it as being different quality ranges.
Okay.
The vast majority of Edward Green shoes we make to the same high standard. And yes, someone might have here we've got the Dover, unlined Dover with a rubber sole for summer, and it can be more casual, but actually the care and attention, the hand sewing and the cutting of the leather is just as you'd expect it to be for a more formal dress shoe.
Okay.
That said, we've got something called the top drawer range. So this is made by one or two of our very most senior craftsmen in the Northampton factory, and you can see there's a very, very tightly beveled waist for this. It's tied up, it's left on the last for an extended period. There's a lot of hammer work going into shaping that sole, knife work in terms of trimming it correctly.
Absolutely beautiful.
This is made with alligator.
But this could be, in any material.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Is the top drawer exclusively made to order, or are these stocked at certain stores?
Made to order, always made to order, absolutely.
I mean, look at the heel, just with how this kind of really hugs the upper. That's incredible.
Exactly, and a lot of handwork to achieve that. And you can see here as well that you can have your initials nailed into the sole of the shoe for a lovely personal touch. Absolutely
beautiful detail. I always feel like the heels and the soles, are really kind of the breakouts of a shoe. So what's your favorite? I mean, is there a model that is kind of, one of your favorites, or one of your most, kind of loved?
Well, I personally am very partial to the Galway. I just think it's so wonderfully flexible. It's a very special shoe. But I think that with shoes, it's about finding something which is appropriate to the occasion as well. So today I'm wearing a lovely pair of Barclays, dark oak Barclays, and for a day on Jermyn Street, that feels like the right sort of shoe.
Yeah, absolutely, in the city, right?
Absolutely. I really like this boot as well. It's a nice,
beautiful Chelsea
boot. Chelsea boots are just so flexible. Here we've got it in mocha suede, really kind of classic, versatile.
Nice brown. Beautiful almond toe.
Absolutely. So that's the 82 last.
Okay. So do you guys have many different lasts? I mean, each last, is every model made in every last, or just certain models and certain lasts?
Exactly. The last, gives a shoe its toe shape, and that imparts so much of the character of a shoe. So there's some classics which will make up in a variety of lasts, and each one will have a different character. Whilst there's some shoes which perhaps are designed with a particular intent in mind, and so there's one, last which typically we'd make that shoe in. So as you said, this is the 82 last, and there's a nice almond shape to the shoe.
Yeah, and so this one, which last is? So this one is slightly square.
Yeah, this looks like the 888.
Okay.
So that's a slightly squared shoe.
How many different lasts are there for the most kind of iconic ranges? I mean, I mean, what's the most number of lasts that any particular model has ever made in?
Right, so the Chelsea would be on 3 different lasts.
Okay.
And it's only installed on 3 different lasts. So the 202 would be kind of round a very classic English-looking toe shape.
But I guess any shoe could be made to order in almost any last.
Exactly. There's some lasts which would be particularly, say, for loafers. So you wouldn't be able to use one of those for making up a dress Oxford. And likewise, the last we've seen here, for the Galway, the Veldschoen, is the 64. And again, that wouldn't be suitable for many shoes, but there's a lot of interchangeability for the key dress shoe last. So you'd have the 82, which would be a nice almond. The 915 is a more modern, quite defined almond. And the 202 would be the most popular last by some way.
Okay.
Lovely classic round English toe
Do you have
shape.
a 202? Can we see it?
Absolutely. So the Chelsea is particularly good in understanding different last shapes because it's the same model.
So this is a cap toe Oxford with the swan neck, so
absolutely
it doesn't get any more iconic than this,
absolutely.
More classic.
Very classic, very much an Edward Green icon with this swan's neck, which we've had as a particular detail for many years now. And here we've got the 202, so a very classic rounded English toe shape. Obviously this is in suede, somewhat more casual, but this is very much kind of Jermyn Street classic if it's in black.
Yeah.
Then here we've got the 82. It's been beautifully high polished here. So a more modern, contemporary shoe, but still quite classic. And then a more recent addition is the 915, which has got a kind of more pronounced wall, and it's more of a pronounced almond.
So it kind of cuts in
more
so the straighter line.
The most most modern of those 3, and probably the 202 and the 82 are the most popular.
Yeah. So I guess every customer that's coming in and kind of choosing a shoe really has the opportunity to see kind of what speaks to them the most in terms of shape. It's not just one kind of shape for everything.
Exactly.
So even this same black cap toe Oxford, 3 people could have 3 practically totally different shoes.
Absolutely, or the same person could have 3 very different shoes.
You can never have too many black cap toe Oxfords.
Depending on what sort of outfit they want to be wearing. And people will make shoes up to order Kirby, so they'll say, I want this shoe, but I want it to have this toe shape, this last, and any shoe we make here, we stock here as well, we'll make it up in a different width. And we'll carry something, a shoe like the Chelsea, we'll carry in 5 different widths. 5 different widths, so we'll take time to find the kind of correct fitting for somebody. And then they can order with a certain degree of confidence.
Yeah. So if you don't have it in stock, you could even make it.
We can make it, and if it's a stock shoe, but in a kind of normal width, we don't have it in stock, we'll make that up free of made-to-order charge as well. So, if somebody discovers they've got a narrow D fitting or a wider F fitting or G fitting, they can come in or have a look online, see what they find appealing, and we'll make that shoe up at no extra charge.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So anyone that's interested in learning more about Edward Green, of course the Jermyn Street shop, your flagship, is a great place to visit. Anyone in London should certainly drop by.
Absolutely.
But do you have a list of stores online?
We certainly do have a list of stores online. We've got many stores across the US with some really exciting shoes that they'll order.
And what about social media?
Shoes. We've got a good following on Instagram, so you can get a good sense there of different Edward Green models.
Yeah, great. Well, Ewan, thank you so much for your time. It's
pleasure to host you.
Always a pleasure. I love my walks down Jermyn Street and do as much window shopping as I can.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you, sir.
If you enjoyed this video, give us a thumbs up and please subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications by clicking the bell to the right of the subscribe button so that you can learn whenever we release new videos. If you have any questions or comments about anything we discussed on this video, please ask them in the comments section below. And of course, please visit hangerproject.com, where we have the largest, most comprehensive collection of luxury garment care and shoe care accessories in the world, as well as many other incredible products for the well-dressed. And while you are there, subscribe to our newsletter to receive notifications of new product launches, promotions, as well as a weekly digest of all the videos we publish here on our YouTube channel.